So I have the Shetland yarn that we used in video 4, and I'm soaking it again in some alum water. I wasn't sure just how much may have rinsed out during the last attempt at dyeing, so figured a little more couldn't hurt, and if it did, I would learn that you shouldn't add too much. So I've got that soaking, and I am also boiling some of the greens from buttercups that grow close to my house, and we're going to see what we can do with these. Alright, so I have soaked and boiled these greens. Don't really know just what's going to go on here. I'm going to put on some gloves and squeeze these to see if I can get more pigment out of them, and then I'm going to pour it through this strainer directly over the yarn that is soaking in the alum water. Alright, so here we are with the squeezed daffodil buttercup greens. Looks so appetizing, doesn't it? I'm going to turn the heat back on, let this build up to a simmer, and see if we see any difference. And then we'll be back. Okay, so while we wait on our greens dye bath to see if it will strike, I'm going to go ahead and get some blueberries simmering in this pot. Then I'm going to attempt to dye some just plain fiber with these, some more of the Shetland fiber that I do not have spun yet. Had an idea for what I think will be a fun little experiment, and you'll see more about this in just a minute. Okay, so since we are in full experiment mode, I thought I would try something with this dye. I've seen other videos where people were dyeing things and they changed the pH level by either adding vinegar or by adding baking soda. And so I tried it in a little bathroom cup and adding baking soda, and it turned a weird shade of yellow, so I wanted to see what happens in the pot. At this point, I don't figure we've got too much to lose because it doesn't look like the yarn is taking up much. So here we go. Whoa, that got really yellow really fast. And you can already see the color of our yarn changing. Wow, that was pretty cool. That's actually really cool. I didn't think it would go that fast. Okay, so now we have kind of a funky yellow color going on. Much brighter than the green we had. We can already see it is binding to our yarn. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I like it. Alright, so we've got our blueberries over here, which are I'm crushing kind of as we go. They're not as far along in the process as I would like, but that's my fault because I forgot to turn the stove on. So I'm going to continue to let these heat up. They were frozen, so it may take them a little while. And then we will continue to crush these and get our dye bath extracted from that, and we'll keep a check on this and see how it's going and go from there. Okay, so here we are with a check-in on the now yellow yarn. I have turned the heat off and I'm going to let it cool and see where we are at once the yarn has had a chance to cool off and potentially absorb more dye. I will probably end up letting this cool overnight and then rinsing it in the morning and seeing if any of this rinses out, which there's a high probability that some of it will, but we'll figure that out as we go. And now we have our blueberries all mashed up, and what we're going to do is I'm going to strain this out, and then we have 3 mason jars that we're going to add this to. We're going to leave one as it is. We're going to add vinegar to the second one, and then baking soda to the third, and we'll see what happens as we change the pH of the dye liquid. Okay, so we ended up with 3 cups of the blueberry dye bath, and I have measured out about a cup plus just a smidge in each jar. Okay, and as I said, we are going to leave this one as the, let's see, because I have different tops on them. One of them is a wide mouth. I will leave the wide mouth as the neutral, I guess sort of neutral, non-added to. That's probably the wrong word, but y'all get what I mean. Alright, so, and then in this middle one, I'm going to add kind of a rounded teaspoon almost of baking soda. I'm going to stir that up. It's good and foamy, and as you can see by the bamboo skewer, we are now at a bluish purple. So we're going to let that settle. Alright, and then this other one, we are going to add a splash of vinegar. Or a good pour of vinegar. Okay, and using the other end of the skewer, mix that in. We can see that it has significantly brightened to more of a red. Whereas, let me rinse this off, our regular one is more of a, looks more purplish, pinkish in there. Rinse it again. And this one, it is brighter, much brighter. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, let's see, I should probably add, I'm going to add another cup of water to each one, and then I'm going to add in these rolags that I combed out of the Shetland wool, and we will see what goes on when we do that. Okay, so here we are. Just wanted to show this before we add in our wool. This is from the one with vinegar. This is from the one with baking soda. It likely fizzed that much because of the acidity that is naturally in blueberries. And here is the one with nothing added to it. It's not showing, well, you can kind of see on this one it is a little, it is brighter than this. This has got heading more towards fuchsia. This is more towards a purple. And let's add a little bit more to that. Let's see. Yeah, so we've got a pinkish and a bluish and a purplish. And as I said, I added a cup of water to each one. So I'm going to add these rolags. Maybe I should have put them in first. I don't know. This might be a you live, you learn thing. Trying to be careful because the water is warm and I don't want to felt the rolags. I do want to be able to spin them once I'm done with them. Okay, and now for the blue. Use the other end of this skewer. Now, because the water was hot and it's still pretty warm, I'm not going to attempt to heat these. I'm just going to let them cool as they will overnight. And then we will check them out in the morning. Because these are natural dyes, I do expect for there to be some, actually probably a lot of the color to rinse out. But you guys, look at that already. Oh my gosh. That is pretty cool. And for good measure, I'm going to give each one a little sprinkle of alum as a mordant, and then let them sit overnight, and I will update in the morning. One last quick update on our yellow that we started. Looks kind of orangish on the camera, and it's more yellow in person. We can definitely see a difference in the color of that yarn. That is really cool. So I'm going to continue to let this cool overnight. I'll rinse that and update that in the morning also. And I'm tempted to take part of this and see. No, I'll leave that for another day. I don't want to over experiment all in one time. I was going to try to make a green, because that's what I was going for with this, was the green. But that's okay that we got yellow because we're learning. So, okay. Hang on, let's get our little cup here. We're not going to try it on yarn, but we're just going to see what happens. I'm going to get a spoonful. Hang on. Okay, I got a spoonful of our bluish purple. It actually looks purple in that cup. I'm going to be happy to get whatever, because my first experiment failed. So here comes a spoonful of the yellow. Mix that together, and what do we get? We'll probably get an ugly brown, maybe. There's a hint of green to it. Just a little bit of a hint. Nope, it's ugly. I don't like it. I'm glad we didn't do any of that. Okay, so again, I'm going to cover everything and let everything cool, and we will check it all out in the morning. Okay, so here we are next morning, and we're going to start by rinsing out the yarn that we dyed with the buttercup greens, and that we added baking soda to turn it yellow. remove this from the dye bath. Let's see here. It's good and yellowy. Let's see what kind of color retention we can get. As you can see, we do have a fair amount of bleeding, which is expected with a lot of natural dyes. We're still maintaining a good bit of color though, so we're just going to keep rinsing until we're just nearly clear. We're heading in the right direction, as you can see. Still trying to be careful not to felt the wool. I will tell y'all, if y'all decide to recreate this, as always, do these sorts of things in a well-ventilated area. When using dry powders, you want to wear a respirator mask. I did not use any of those in these experiments. The only thing dry and powdery was the alum and the baking soda, which are food safe, so I maintained a distance as I was working with those, so as not to inhale them. Alright, so here we are. We still have a very good yellow tint. I'm going to add just a little bit of dish soap. Not going to add it directly to the wool. I'm going to add it in my hands. And this will help make sure that there's no other color or dye that's going to come out. And actually, I'm not seeing anything else come out. We are rinsing clear. There we go. We have some yellow Shetland yarn. If you'll remember the yellow acrylic yarn I used as ties, there's not a whole lot of difference. This is much more muted, but it's definitely not just plain white like we tried before. And I'm wondering if I had added some baking soda to the tree material that I tried to use, if that would have made a difference. So we may try that again sometime soon. Next, we're going to open one of our jars. Okay, so here is the jar with our rolags that had just straight blueberry juice, had nothing added to it. Going to Because this is still unspun, I'm going to add the water indirectly at the side, not directly on top of the wool. As you can see, we have quite a bit of runoff. I don't know what we might be able to retain in this. We shall see nonetheless. Based on research that I did before starting this, it will likely remain just a light pink, and that's okay with me. It does seem as though the strainer did not catch all the little blueberry bits, so this may give us some extra residual color bleeding. This is where we are now. This would have been one rolag. It's not entirely maintained its shape, but that's okay. If I need to comb them back out, that'll be alright. We've still got some color coming out, so we'll rinse just a couple more times. Still trying to be very careful not to felt the wool. Pretty clear now, except for the little bits of blueberry matter. Add in our dish soap. Okay, and still pretty clear. I'm sure that if I end up recombing this, especially as I spin it, those little blueberry bits will fall out. And if they don't, that'll be alright too. Okay. And here we are. Hard to tell on camera, but there's still a faint pinkness. So let's move on to the one that, let's check out the one that had the vinegar in it. Okay, here we go with jar number 2. This was the blueberry juice with vinegar added to it. Sorry guys, almost knocked y'all over. Okay, let's try again. So there's the color that came out of the jar. You've been running the water on the side so as not to felt the wool. You do see as I let the water come in and then I put some pressure onto the wool, you can see that there's a good bit of runoff. This is more of a kind of a watermelonish pink. Here's where we are so far. One thing I've definitely learned from this is that maybe I need some cheesecloth or something else that will strain this a little more finely. Gently squeezing the wool, see if more color will come out, and we are getting to a point where we are pretty clear. And we do have now it's almost more of a lavender color. Still rinsing pretty clear. Okay, so here we are now. We're going to move on to jar number 3. Okay, here we go. Jar number 3. This was the blueberry juice with baking soda added in. That color, that is a beautiful color. I hope we retain a good bit of this because it's gorgeous. You see, it's almost a navy color. Makes me wonder if I would have mixed this and some of the pure blueberry juice with the red, if it would have become more of a bright purple, or if the acidity would have changed the color back to a pink. I don't know, we might have to experiment with that more another time. We're definitely keeping a lot of the blue color, which I'm very, very happy with. We are still getting a little bit of color coming out. Let you see it this way as I gently press. They're barely color. I'm going to go ahead and get our soap. Just gently pressing. Don't want to agitate. And that's got a little bit more color coming out. But we would rather get it out now than for it to want to come out later after it's a finished product. We have Easter coming up. I'm kind of thinking these may become peeps. Just might crochet these into some peeps or maybe some tiny bunnies. For more information on that, to see if I'm able to get that done in time for Easter, keep a check on my Facebook group, Robin's Crocheted Creations. Because if those become available, that will be where you can find them. And if you are not part of my group, I'd love for you to join. Alright, so we're going to stop with this here. And I'm going to lay them out all side by side so we can compare. Okay, so here we go with our washed, or dyed and washed wool. Again, this is a much better result than the first time. It's going to be slightly lighter once it's fully dry. I'll get you guys more in the light. You can see it's actually a really pretty color. This was our blueberry. Couldn't remember what it was called. This was our straight blueberry dye juice dye bath. We still have a very pale pink that's more towards the purple side. This was with the vinegar added. We had a much brighter color in our dye bath, and we can see this is more towards pink. And then this, I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's got a sort of a light turquoise-ish color. It's kind of hard to... Blue tends to come through as white sometimes, but let me find something white. Here's a white piece of paper towel as a contrast. So there is definitely a difference. We retained some of our blue color, and considering I've never done this before other than in the part 4 Shetland series video, which was a total bust, I'm pretty happy with the result. So I appreciate the viewer that commented and mentioned working with blueberries, that she'd like to see that. So I'm very grateful for that. This was a fun experiment and I learned a lot. Hopefully you did too, and hopefully we can learn more together in the future. See you guys later.